Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half hour or so. Sunny Side of the Dome is brought to you by Jays from the Couch. We stream live Thursdays at 6 p.m. You can find us on Jays from the Couch's YouTube channel, as well as the Facebook page or Twitter page. And if you are following along live watching and you think of a question or comment, please do send it on in. I love that fan interaction. I think it makes the show just that much better. And if you don't catch the live show, but you still want to check it out, no problem. When you're ready for us, we're ready for you. You can catch the archive version on any of those aforementioned mediums, so Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And if you like the content here at Sunny Side of the Dome, there's lots more where that came from. There's Jays from the Couch's main podcast. That's Monday evenings, 6 p.m., and that's hosted by Shaun Doyle, the founder, senior editor of Jays from the Couch, and he's always got lots of great stuff, usually other people on there with him to share the load, so to speak. There's the relatively new fake news segment, which is always a laugh. And if you don't catch that live version, in addition to watching, that is also available as a radio podcast. So you can download and listen anywhere you get good podcasts, Apple, Google, Stitcher, other other places like that. Jays from the Couch is everywhere. And the other YouTube show that you should definitely check out if you haven't been is the On Feck Circle, hosted by Steve Feck, my crazy, knowledgeable, thinks outside the box colleague. He does that Tuesdays at 6 p.m. and he's very unique. He's always got lots of interesting stuff to talk about, very interesting perspectives, lots of experience in the game. So give that a look if you haven't. The On Feck Circle, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And hello, Blue Jays fans. Happy Thursday evening, at least I hope it's a happy Thursday where you are. If you're following along the news with the negotiations, well, there's still no collective bargaining agreement. Both sides have been talking every day so far this week, and unfortunately, they're not making much progress. So, really hoping there'll be some good news soon, as I'm sure we are all hoping. In the meantime, I definitely wanted to get to excuse me, part two. So last week, if you tuned in, I did part one of, with it being Black History Month, I wanted to do a Blue Jays focus, looking back at some black people, black men. Let's be honest, no black women that I'm aware of, but black men who have made an impact, a significant impact on the Toronto Blue Jays. So last week, I got as far as the 92-93 World Series, talked about some players and one significant manager, that being Cito Gaston. That's how I ended up last episode. But there's so much more to talk about, and I definitely wanted to continue. So part two is tonight. So anything from after 1993 and onward. And excuse my cat as he walks in front of the screen. Hello, sweetheart. Yes. And anyway, hello, Lionheart 70. Nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So yes, I mean, these are some of the players that I think have been very significant for the Blue Jays in the past and working up to the present. It's probably not an exhaustive list. I mean, we've got a lot of history with this team, with this franchise. And so if I've forgotten anybody that you consider to be significant, I hope you won't be offended. It's not meant as a slight, but I just did my best to think of the ones that I thought were extra important and the ones that came to mind and all of that. So without further ado, leading off, Carlos Delgado, well, one of the best Blue Jay hitters to ever wear the uniform. First baseman, left-handed hitting, big-time slugger, big-time run producer. Carlos came to the Toronto Blue Jays organization. They signed him as a free agent at age 16, and apparently there was considerable interest in his services from other organizations as well. But Toronto got him, so that was a great move. Carlos played in Major League Baseball for 17 years, so he was a veteran when he finally hung it up. He was with the Blue Jays. He came up in 1993, played all of 2 games because, of course, he was a young rookie. They had a veteran team that was about to win their second World Series in as many years, so there wasn't a lot of playing time for young Delgado, at least not then. But 1993 through 2004, he was with the Blue Jays, after which, unfortunately, they lost him to free agency. Some of the highlights of his career: he was an all-star a couple of times in 2000 and 2003. Those were 2 of his better seasons, as a matter of fact. Never won a league MVP. I thought he should have, particularly in those 2 seasons. In 2000, he was the 4th highest vote getter in league MVP, and in 2003 he was second. But yeah, so he has a career OPS plus of 138, so very, very good, quite a bit above average there, just as you would expect it. If you're going to be a first baseman, that's one of the big things you have to do is hit. 1996, when he really became an everyday player, is when he started establishing himself and the player that he would be. So I'm going to give you some OPS plus numbers for 1996 through 2004. So 112, 127, 151, wow, 138, 181. That was in 2000. As I said, I think he should have been league MVP that year. 146, 147, 161, and 129 in his final season with the Jays in 2004. If you look up a Toronto Blue Jays history and offensive numbers, so all-time numbers for the Jays, Carlos Delgado's name is all over the place. He's first in RBIs with 1,058, walks with 827, home runs. Actually, he has 473 career home runs. All of that was not with the Jays. 336 was with the Jays. All-time slugging percentage with the Jays, 566. OPS, 949. Runs scored, 889. Doubles, 343. I mean, you name it. He's definitely left his mark on the Toronto Blue Jays. Personally, I think he should have gotten a lot more consideration for Hall of Fame than he did, being that close to 500 home runs. Who knows? Maybe someday, maybe the Veterans Committee. But anyway, yes, Carlos Delgado, it was a pleasure that he was with the Toronto Blue Jays for as many years as he was. Next up, actually, I said leading off with Carlos Delgado, but a true leadoff hitter was Shannon Stewart. So Stewart came to the Blue Jays via the draft. He was a first round draft pick of theirs, actually in the 1992 draft. Shannon was an outfielder, came up as a center fielder, but really he ended up playing more left field. Stewart played 14 years in Major League Baseball, and he was a very interesting sort of player. He was with the Jays from 1995 through 2003, or part of 2003. He played 71 games with the Jays in 2003. Unfortunately, they weren't really contending. We're talking about the in-between years, so after 1993, and right now we're pre-2015. I'll get up to 2015, but for now it's the during the 22-year playoff drought. Ouch, still hurts to think about that. But yes, Stewart had a career OPS of 106, so he was the kind of player that he could do a lot of different things. Not necessarily someone who would go out and put up a lot of big home run totals. So I think his career high and home runs in one season was 21. And he did that in the year 2000. So again, he's not somebody that was necessarily the biggest slugger on the team, but he was a leadoff hitter and he did a lot of different things. So he was very fast. He was a good defensive outfielder. He has 196 career stolen bases, including 51 stolen bases in 1998. So that's pretty good. And honestly, if the Blue Jays had a player like that nowadays, I think that could really complement the team that they have with a lot of guys who can, it seems like, go deep at will. And yes, so yeah, excuse me, Shannon Stewart. So the stolen bases, career high. He also has a career 315 doubles. In 2000, he had a pretty good year. In 2000, he also hit 43 doubles, as well 44 in 2001, 38 in 2002, 44 in 2003, and he was someone that could hit triples. He had a lot of extra base power, even if it wasn't necessarily over the fence power. So doubles, triples, he could hit the gaps, and he was fast enough to be able to do that. In 1997, he actually hit 7 triples in only 44 games. So he had a lot of promise. He had a good career. There may have been even higher expectations for him than what he accomplished, but very, very good player, solid piece of Toronto Blue Jays history there. So that was Shannon Stewart. Excuse me. Next up, another outfielder and one who spent a number of years with the Toronto Blue Jays, and that's Vernon Wells. So Vernon Wells was drafted by the Jays in 1997, another first round pick. He was chosen fifth overall, actually. So after 2000, sorry, let's try that again. After 1993, when the Blue Jays started falling down in the standings, they weren't doing as well as in the regular season, so they got some higher draft picks out of it, and Vernon Wells was one of the results of that. So he was with the Jays from 1999 through 2010. He also had a good career, accomplished some good things. He was an All-Star 3 times in 2003, 2006, and 2010, all with the Toronto Blue Jays. He won also 3 straight Gold Gloves from 2004, 5, and 6, playing for the Jays in center field. And in 2003, he had quite a good season. He had 215 hits, which led Major League Baseball. He had 49 doubles, which led the American League, and 373 total bases. He had a career OPS plus of 104. And he kind of went up and down a little bit. So in 2001, that was 102. 2002 slipped a bit to 96. Very good in 2003, 132. And then after that, 105, 104, 129 in 2006. And that one of the All-Star years, as I mentioned, dropped off a bit in 2007 to 85, bounced back in 2008, 123, and then in 2009 slumped again, 86, and then rebounded in 2010 to 125. Another noteworthy thing about Vernon Wells that a lot of people, I believe, remember him for is that up until recently, Vernon Wells signed the biggest contract in Toronto Blue Jays history. He signed a 7-year, $126 million contract that covered the years 2008 through 2014. Unfortunately, he only actually played the first 3 of those years for the Toronto Blue Jays, 2008, 9, and 10, after which he was traded to the Los Angeles Angels of California, or whatever the heck they were called then. However, yes, Vernon Wells, he could do a little bit of a lot: speed, power, hitting, Gold Gloves, all stars, and so forth. So Vernon Wells, good part of Blue Jays history there. And excuse me just a moment. Okay, next up after that, I wanted to talk about Frank Thomas. Now, some of you might think it's a little odd talking about somebody who was only a Toronto Blue Jay for a little bit over 1 year, but to me, he was significant, and I'll get to why. So, Frank Thomas was very much a member of the Hall of Fame. Frank Thomas was a phenomenal player. He played the majority of his days with the Chicago White Sox. He won a league MVP. He has a career 521 home runs, and he's like his numbers were really phenomenal. In addition to the home runs, the doubles, he hit for a high average. Thomas also had a lot more walks than strikeouts, and that's very, very rare for someone who is a legitimate slugger, because normally you'll see guys that they have the home runs, but the strikeouts also come for it because they're swinging for the fences. But Thomas had that rare combination of power and plate discipline. So for his career, 1,667 walks and only 1,397 strikeouts, and a career OPS plus of 156. So, yeah, definitely the whole package when it comes to your offense. He was a first base slash DH type player. So, Thomas signed with the Blue Jays as a free agent. He played a full season with the Jays in 2007, and then he played 16 games in 2008, and that was it for him as a Toronto Blue Jay. So, as a 39-year-old in 2007, he was still a very good hitter. He had a 125 OPS plus, and his nickname, by the way, was the Big Hurt. So, what was so special about Frank Thomas in a Blue Jay uniform? Well, when he hit career home run number 500, he did it wearing a Toronto Blue Jay uniform on June the 28th, 2007. When you hit a milestone like that, even if a lot of it was done elsewhere, I think that's something that was worth mentioning. So, again, he's in the Hall of Fame, very deserving. Great that he was a Blue Jay, even if it was only for a short period of time. So, Frank Thomas. All right, so as I said, the list unfortunately is not necessarily exhaustive. I'm sure there's lots more players that I could have mentioned, but now we're getting into the later 2000s, and even into the 2010s. So getting up to the point where the Blue Jays were getting good again and eventually made it back to the playoffs. So next up, Edwin and Carnacion. So Edwin and Carnacion was acquired by the Toronto Blue Jays on July the 31st, 2009, in a trade with the Cincinnati Reds. So the Blue Jays sent third baseman Scott Rowland to the Reds, and they received, in addition to Encarnacion, relief pitcher Josh Weineke and highly touted pitching prospect Zach Stewart, who unfortunately he's one of those prospects that unfortunately didn't make all that much of his major league debut, or not just debut, but his whole major league career. I'm getting tripped up by my own words here, but yeah, that's the way it goes. I mean, as they say, there's no such thing as a can't miss prospect. But yeah, Edwin was certainly a work in progress early in his career. He always had the potential to be a terrific hitter. Took him a while. He was a bit of a late bloomer in terms of his career as a major league player. He also used to be a third baseman. Unfortunately, his defense, if anybody remembers watching him back then, his defense at third base just wasn't very good. I mean, his initials are EE, and well, there were a lot of EEs when he was playing third base. But eventually, the Blue Jays said, you know what, we can't have him playing third base for us anymore. So they moved him, and he ended up playing a good bit. And here's my cat. Hello, sweetheart. He ended up playing a good bit of first base and eventually became essentially a full-time DH. So if you're going to play first base and DH, and that's all you're doing, You better be a really good hitter. And Edwin and Carnacion was a very good hitter. So he has a career OPS plus of 123. But that doesn't come close to talk about Edwin, the hitter that he was later in his career when he blossomed. So he was with the Blue Jays for part of 2009, 42 games in 2009, through the end of the season in 2016 and the playoffs. One thing that Edwin was known for is the parrot. So it's an unusual habit that he got into when he was rounding the bases after hitting a home run. He would hold his arm up as if there was a parrot on his shoulder. So yeah, that's an interesting thing there. But Edwin was an all-star in 2013, 2014, and 2016. And his OPS plus numbers with the Blue Jays. So in 2010, first full season with the Jays, 109, then 111 in 2011, 153 in 2012. He really should have been an all-star in 2012. That was a real snub there. 2013, 145 when he finally did get the nod. 2014, 152, 2015, 148, and 2016, 134. He has 424 career home runs. Not sure how much consideration he'll get for the Hall of Fame. I, I'm I guess I have to say I'm not sure that he'll get in, which is unfortunate. If only he had started this really solid production a couple of years before he did, but that's the way it went. And of course, one of the big things that Toronto Blue Jays fans remember about Edwin is the big home run that he hit in 2016 in extra innings of the wild card game to give the Blue Jays the 3-run victory and send them on to the ALDS. So all the best to Edwin, who hasn't played in it in a few years, and great to have him as a Toronto Blue Jay for as long as we did. Next up, someone who some people find a little bit controversial, which I can understand, and that's Marcus Strowman. So Marcus Strowman, a pitcher. So far we've talked about position players. This one is a pitcher. So drafted in 2012, the draft by the Toronto Blue Jays, another first round pick, 22nd pick overall was Marcus Strowman. And he was with the Blue Jays for part of 2014 and then all the way through 2019 until the trade deadline when he was traded away because Strowman was an all-star in 2019, but the Blue Jays were in a rebuilding year, so they traded him to the New York Mets for 2 pitching prospects, Anthony Kay, who the Blue Jays still have in their system, and Simeon Woods Richardson, who they just traded this past year, along with Austin Martin for Jose Barrios. So kind of coming full circle there. But anyway, so Marcus Strowman, he has so far, he's still an active player. He's now signed with the Chicago Cubs. He has a career ERA plus of 116, so quite good. One of the things that he's known for, Marcus Strowman, is very outspoken, and he's kind of one of those people that you either love him or you can't stand him. So to each their own. He's also known for his own trademark and a company that's built that he has built. HDMH, height doesn't measure heart, because for a professional athlete and for a pitcher, he's not all that tall. He was told in his past that you're never going to make it, you're not tall enough, and against all odds, he just worked and proved everybody wrong that he can in fact do it. So Marcus Strowman's ERA plus numbers per season. So in 2014, as a rookie, 104, so a little bit above average, and you could definitely see the promise there. He was a little inconsistent, but most rookies are. Then in 2015, in spring training on March the 10th, 2015, the news broke that Marcus Strowman had a torn ACL in his left knee. Now, normally they expect the recovery time to be about 6 months. They thought that he was out for the season. And Marcus Strowman said, "No, I'm not." And he rehabbed aggressively. He went back to Duke University, finished his degree, and rehabbed more aggressively than any sports story I've ever heard of. And in September, he made his season debut with the Toronto Blue Jays. Pitched 4 regular season games. In those 4 games, he had a phenomenal ERA plus of 2.49. It was like making another trade acquisition to get Marcus Strowman back. And yeah, he pitched for them in the playoffs in 2015 and 2016, including he started the wild card game in 2016, kept them in the game, obviously, because they went to extra innings. And Strowman was known as a big game pitcher. If you put him into a big spot, he just it seemed to bring out the best of him in a lot of ways. So yes, I was talking about ERA plus. So 2016, 97, he kind of got off to a rough start of that season, but then he got better as the year went on. 2017 did very well, 145. 2018 didn't do so well, had 77. Now, he was also injured for a lot of that season, spent the end of it on the injured list. 2019, when he finally made his first All-Star appearance, 137. So very good. And as I said, he was traded at the trade deadline. Myself, I wish nothing but the best for Marcus Strowman, big part of the Blue Jays past, and all the best to him in the future. So next up, and staying with the 2015-2016 Blue Jays, is David Price. So David Price was with the Blue Jays for a good time, not a long time. So he was a veteran pitcher who the Blue Jays traded for at the 2015 trade deadline. They acquired him from the Detroit Tigers in exchange for Daniel Norris, Matt Boyd, and Jairo Labort, and I really hope I said his name correctly there. David Price, honestly, when the Blue Jays traded for him, I remember hearing the news and how excited I was to hear about it, because it really gave the Blue Jays a bona fide ace pitcher that, in my opinion, they hadn't had since they lost Roy Doc Halladay, when he basically insisted on being traded, and he was traded away. So they acquired David Price. And he pitched, so in the regular season for them, down the stretch in August and September of 2015, he went 9-1 with a 2.30 ERA, so very, very good. He finished second in Cy Young voting in the American League that season, and he actually got some league MVP votes too. He finished 9th there. David Price is a 5-time All-Star, and a career ERA of 3.33, career ERA plus of 1.23. So even though he wasn't a Toronto Blue Jay for very long, and then once they got to the postseason, unfortunately, his performance wasn't as great, to say the least, as it had been in the regular season. But David Price, definitely one of the reasons that the Blue Jays went on to have such a strong finish to the regular season in 2015, won their first division title since 1993, and made it back to the playoffs. Excuse me just a second. All right, so moving right along, I've just got a few more players to try to cover. Apologize if I go a little bit over time. So we're getting up to present-day Blue Jays. So one that I definitely wanted to mention was Teoscar Hernandez. So current Blue Jay, they acquired him in a trade at the trade deadline in 2017 with the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros they knew that they were going to be playoff bound, and they wanted a little bit of help. So they acquired Francisco Liriano from the Toronto Blue Jays to pitch. He's a left-handed pitcher. They had him pitching in their bullpen. And the Blue Jays got Hernandez, who was an outfield prospect, as well as Nori Aoki, who actually played quite well for the Blue Jays in very limited time that he was with them. So that's a whole other story. But anyway, so Hernandez has been with the Blue Jays, as I say, since 2017. And so far, and he's still with the Blue Jays. In the last couple of years, he's really come into his own. So far, he has a career OPS plus of 120. I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be higher than that. So year by year, 2017, it was 133, 2018, 109, 2019, 105. If you follow the Blue Jays, you know that Hernandez kind of had two separate seasons that he didn't do well early on. He was sent to the minor leagues for a part of May and June. And when he came up, honestly, he looked like a completely different hitter. And to me, he's never looked back since then, since being called back up in 2019. In 2020, he really came into his own, an ERA plus, an OPS plus of 146. If there had been an All-Star game in 2020, I'm quite sure that Teoscar Hernandez would have been on the team. And then last year in 2021, he finally did make the All-Star team, had an OPS plus of 133. He's just a really terrific player in a lot of ways. He's got lots of speed. In 2021, he was 85th percentile in speed, according to StatCast. His defense in the outfield, he really never used to get the best reads on balls. And a couple of years ago, unfortunately, his defense, it wasn't very good. And it seems to me like he's worked on it, because now he's about league average, which isn't great. But you know what? To go with that bat, I'll absolutely take that from him. And personally, I'm hoping that because as it stands right now, he's eligible for free agency at the end of the 2023 season. I'm hoping that the Blue Jays can manage to sign him to a contract extension, because it's great to have him on this team. Couple more to go, Matt, sweetie. I'm late. Yeah, that makes two of us. Nice to see you there, Matt. I'm still going. Mercy. Okay, couple more players. Marcus Semien. Has there been a better one-year free agent contract anytime in Toronto Blue Jays history? I challenge anyone to tell me about someone better in that regard, because I don't think there is. What did Marcus Semien not do for the Toronto Blue Jays in 2021? He was a middle infielder. He played basically his whole career at shortstop. They signed him, being very clear with him that they wanted him to play second base most of the time, and he was all right with that, signing a one-year deal with the Blue Jays, since they already had a pretty good shortstop in Bo Bichette, and one with a lot of talent, a lot of promise in the future. So what all did Marcus Semien achieve in his 1 year with the Blue Jays? Well, he was third in league MVP voting, something he'd actually done once before in 2019 with the Oakland A's. He has a career OPS plus of 110, but really that average is kind of deceiving. He's had two very good seasons with the Bats, with an OPS plus of 100 or better. So 139 in 2019, 133 in 2021. All of the other seasons have been under 100, but they were close enough that those big numbers really brought the averages up. So yes, in 2021 with the Toronto Blue Jays, third place vote getter in league MVP after the year when it's all said and done. He was an all-star for the first time in his career. He won a Gold Glove. He won a Silver Slugger. I mean, the accolades just go on and on and on. As well as some intangibles, Marcus Semien was praised for his leadership, being more of a veteran player than a lot of the other guys on the team. Bo Bichette, for one, really commented on how much Marcus Semien's presence meant to him and helped him. And I'll be very honest, when they signed Marcus Semien, I really thought that the main thing the Toronto Blue Jays wanted to get out of that was someone who could kind of be an on-field coach to Bo Bichette and help him with his defense, because Marcus Semien earlier in his career was not a good defender, and he found ways to improve. So if he could pass some of that wisdom along to a younger, less experienced Bo Bichette, and it helps him, and it's something that he can continue going forward, let's hope. Anyway, so then there were lots of people hoping to retain Marcus Simeon's services. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. He signed in the offseason a 7-year contract with the Texas Rangers for $175 million. So, Marcus Simeon, thank you for everything. All the best of success to you with the Texas Rangers. And the final gift, so to speak, will be a compensation draft pick. So let's see what the Blue Jays can do with that. Last but not least, as I'm already over time here, how could you not, if you're talking about with this list, how could you not include Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who is part of the past few years and most definitely part of the Toronto Blue Jays' future? So, book ending this show, to international free agent signings. I started with Carlos Delgado and finishing up with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So, with all the moves that former Blue Jays GM Alex Anthopoulos made for the Blue Jays in the offseason of 2014 and then during the season 2015, maybe none in terms of the Blue Jays history was bigger than this international free agent signing. So signing Vlad Jr. as a free agent in 2016 or 2015, excuse me. Thank you so much, AA. One of the best things you ever did for this team. So Vlad, he really hit his way through the minor leagues. Didn't take him all that long for all the buzz around a lot of baseball to be around him. He was a #1 prospect before he was finally called up to the Blue Jays in late April of 2019. And he's played with the Jays for most of 2019 as well as 2020 and 2021 under team control through 2025. And I'm sure, like many Toronto Blue Jays, I hope that they keep him long term. I hope that they make him the first ever career Toronto Blue Jay. I hope he's part of a lot of success for them going forward, both personally as well as team success. So far, Vlad Jr. has had a career OPS plus of 137. I think again when it's all said and done, it's going to be much higher than that. So in 2019, as a rookie, barely scratching the surface of the talent that he had. He had an OPS plus of 106, better in 2020 in the shortened season, 60 games, 115. And then in 2021, we really saw him take off and come into his own as the superstar player that everybody expected. So an OPS plus of 169, second in league MVP voting, and really in almost any other season, he would have won league MVP. Shohei Ohtani, hats off to him. He was very deserving. I'm not going to say that he wasn't, but Vlad Jr. also would have been very deserving. But he did win MVP last year. He won All-Star Game MVP. He was an All-Star for the first time in his career, first of many. And I'm just so excited to have him on the team and the rest of the current day Blue Jays. I can't wait until they get back. Owners, players, listen to your darn fans. Get back to the table, talk, and get an agreement because we want to watch baseball. We want to get back to the business of baseball, signing free agents, making trades, and then watching games and seeing the cream rise to the top. So on that note, and again, I went a little over time as I thought I would, but hope it's been worthwhile. So thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. That's all I've got for today. Let's go Blue Jays, and I'll see you again next week.